Hi, I'm Matt from HockeyReviews.ca, and this is the Bauer Supreme. So this is kind of the Shadow catching glove review, but if you do know this kind of famous shape, this is a Vapor 90. So this is the review for this catching glove. This whole set, including the blocker that I've already reviewed here, as well as the pads, is all because of Just Hockey, and this was the demo option they had for the Shadow one. So I was happy to try it out and take a look at it and to see how this 580 style 90-degree break glove works and how it feels. And while I don't have a true 580 to directly compare it to, I have used one in the past, so I kind of know how that one feels as well. But we'll be kind of looking at this compared to the Hyperlight 2 a little bit, just because a lot of the internals and things like that and how this feels, you can kind of compare the two, because there's obviously the shape is different, the closure is different, break angle is different. There are things inside like the grips and stuff like that that are kind of the same, and some work better or not versus the other one. So we'll talk about that a little bit in here, but we'll have a separate review for this glove. But before we jump into this review, let me know below in the comments what your worst glove you've ever used is. Now, I've had a few ones in the past I've absolutely hated, but I have to say, Flex 6 581 was probably the worst glove I've ever used, and there's a lot not to like about it. And even the PGS glove that I talked about was better than that glove was. So let me know below what is the worst glove you've ever used and how quickly you got out of it. So obviously for this glove, the most important thing on it is the aesthetics. And this is obviously a very black out glove, just because it's their demo set. When I did their customizer, I actually found you could do pretty nice amount of customization, and it does definitely seem like it's the most options from a stock graphic Bauer has ever done, which is a very nice thing to do. Plus they always have their DigiPrint, which allows you to really go full custom on it. Now, with that said, I do think this graphic could be a lot better because everything kind of only goes in one direction, and you can't ever split up the graphic at all. So it's always going to be this piece, it's always going to be this piece, it's always going to be that piece, it's always going to be the line, it's always going to be this side. So no matter what, you're kind of stuck with pretty limiting option in that sense. But again, you can go the DigiPrint for that, and it's not really the end of the world. I love these small little details like this right here. They've had that on every line they've done, and I love it, just a small little thing where it's different than kind of like other companies do. So big fan that that exists. So for the face of this glove, I don't have the actual specs in terms of what is added on here and on here, so I don't know if it has the DCT on one part or the other. For my glove, when I did the Hyperlight 2, I put the DCT foam in here, and that DCT is their defense cloud technology. They stopped using Poron. Poron is a proprietary foam, it's expensive, and Bauer has been kind of getting away from it. So I don't even see a DCT tag on this glove. I'm not sure if that's just they didn't put it on this one because it's not kind of like stock one, where that one is just a Hyperlight 2. I also can't confirm which the spec is on here. And honestly, this glove, from everything on here, feels very similar to the true 580s that this glove is, let's be real, based off of. Yes, this cuff is a little bit different in terms of how the true shape is, but this glove was made to mimic that for their pros, so it does feel very similar to that. And when you look at it like this, it does look just like a true 580. Nothing crazy going on here from like the feel or anything. You just have kind of a standard piece where their printed graphics stop kind of right there, as you can see, and that also happened on my Hyperlight 2, where the printed graphics only go to a spot, and then it's just more of a standard kind of traditional Gen Pro down here and on the T itself. Now, speaking of that T, it does have that very famous closure. So you can see it has that kind of twisting to it. Not the best seal ever, kind of reminiscent of the issues I saw with the Axis, but it's not awful, and it is okay. A puck is not getting through that. And to prove that, see, puck is not getting through that. And even though it's a little bit open, it is totally fine. But you do have that very, very famous T shape and closure. So very, very 580 like, unlike that Warrior catching glove we used recently for the 7.1, where people say it's the same shape, but you don't have that kind of similar T closure. It's kind of its own thing. This is basically what you expect from a 90-degree glove. And this T, being a massive one piece, honestly feels like a straight up like one-to-one copy of what the true one is. And on my true glove, you can see that T is so similar to itself that it really does feel like they kind of copied it straight through. Now, with that said, on the true one, you can see how the outside pieces don't really, it doesn't like push outwards as much right here, where on this Bauer one, you can see that kind of T piece does kind of push out. So it looks identical in terms of shape and everything. It is there. And that T, I honestly love how thick this T is, and pucks hit that, and it's a really like nice snap feeling. This glove isn't all the way worked in yet. This is like their demo set, but it's not totally worked in. It's still okay to close, as you can see. It's not the most easiest thing to close, but it's pretty okay. Closure on it is okay. It's not the best, but it could definitely be better and broken in more. But I'm not going to say that is necessarily a bad thing just because this glove hasn't been used all that much and I haven't really broken it in myself. And speaking of that tee and the whole glove itself, you could see how the puck would come out. And when you kind of look at it, you can see how it's not really flat. And that is one of the parts that causes that puck to come out. So you can see how this tee doesn't kind of hit the ice. Well, you could see it in that result. But when you kind of flatten this glove out, you can see how this part's going to hit and then that part is going to hit, and that's the result there. For 580s or 90 degrees, everyone always talks about how horrible they seal, and I kind of showed off how it's not totally flat in the other view. But for a proof of this on the ice, go on here and weight just straight in the middle, and it comes out the tee. And basically for weight in the middle, I mean just me putting all the weight on the palm itself. You can see it will come out of that tee. And if you go onto it and do fingers forward, so you're kind of pushing onto the tee, so the tee doesn't slide back, it doesn't, but it leaves behind. So basically when you're doing this and you're trying to do anything with this, you kind of have to cradle your hands, because my natural movement is doing this, which is going to miss. So you kind of have to angle it coming back and then flatten it out to kind of cover it. Picking up isn't a huge issue. I never had a problem with that with this style of glove. So that's easy, but coverage is kind of famously bad on these, as you can see. And I've noticed it a few times when I tried to quickly scoop a puck and I just missed it because it comes under that tee. And this review and testing only happened because of Just Hockey. So make sure you check out that link in the description to Just Hockey. Help support the channel. It tells them that these videos are useful and they should keep doing these with me. That way people keep buying gear through them. They keep getting something and I can make more content, which is all I am asking for. Otherwise, if you want to support the channel without buying anything hockey related, check out the links in the description to Buy Me a Coffee and Patreon. Everything through any of those links always comes back into the channel so I can keep making more content and do more videos. When I tried the Vaughn 580 type of glove, the issue with theirs where the tee was totally flush and it did seal the ice very well. You couldn't really grab a stick all that well, and I found that tee being basically past or where the fingers are kind of stopped you from really grabbing a stick like this. So with this glove, I don't really have issues with it. I can actually pick it up fine like this in the actual palm, and you can see where the tee part, it kind of slides up. So if this tee came out a bit more, like down here, like that Vaughn, it kind of would get in the way and kind of pushes the glove out more like this, which makes it harder to grab onto. But for this, it feels pretty easy to grab onto and it's not bad at all. So you do kind of have that trade-off there where it's harder to seal the puck, but it is easier to grab sticks and to shoot with it. Onto the backhand of this glove, you do have kind of nothing raised here, just a hard piece of foam back here, which is pretty standard for Bauer gloves, to be honest, and it's the same as it's on the Hyperlite 2, which makes sense because this is kind of based on that Hyperlite 2. And then you have your kind of folded piece out here, which used to have a nice kind of venting on here, which is gone. And just the whole back piece is pretty standard for Bauer stuff. And you do have that flexible piece right here, which is nice to see. And that's basically standard for most companies now as well. Even on the catching glove side, you do have that cuff that kind of gets in the way a little bit right there, that little tiny Bauer logo piece. But overall, it worked pretty well, and you can see it moves pretty well, even with this massive, massive chest protector. And even that big cuff doesn't really get in the way. So when you're actually trying to wear this and fingers out and everything like people do, it gets in the way a little bit. But for me, I kind of do fingers like this and it's no issue. This piece, really, you could cut this out and it would probably open it up even more for you. And this is the biggest chest you're going to get for like arm issues. So the fact that this one still works, you can feel a little bit, it's doing a good enough job. I really don't think Bauer needs this anymore, to be honest. They've already taken away the cuff on their block. I don't really get why this hasn't come off yet. So this part being cut out would really open that up a lot more. And actually the Supreme design, where this is on elastic and kind of floats, works better and opens up more. So I still think this design could be kind of improved and could be updated and just honestly removed. So you do get more of that upper flex like that. When we open this up, we have the one piece right here, which is that elastic, like I mentioned on this side right here. And you Velcro that one open and it's still kind of stuck over here. I've never really been a fan of this whole system. And it's kind of the same with the Hyperlite 2 because it doesn't really open up that well to air. But we'll pull this one out to get a real look at it. And you can see the top piece right here. This piece is connected into elastic and it opens up like this, and it has this adjustable piece in here as well. Looking at the straps, you have this really nice plush beige Nash right here, and then you have a Suregrip palm right here, and you actually have a Suregrip liner in there. I didn't even think this glove had Suregrip because the grip on here is so worn out already, and it's just the Suregrip on here isn't very good compared to the true ones, and I've kind of called that out over and over again with gloves, and this one is definitely the case where I actually thought the inner pieces on here was just straight up Nash, and only this piece was Suregrip, until I looked closer and saw it, just because texture is so lacking that it doesn't really feel like it's textured. You have your quick strap right here, but I've never really found this one to work that well. I mentioned on how the Vons, it works really well. So for this, really, in order to get at it, to be a quick, you have to put it under this little piece right here. So when you do that, you can see it doesn't really tighten because it's not like on the right angle. You really have to pull and then it eventually comes, but it's so awkward. And I've never found it to really work when I'm on the ice. I've always had to do it before I actually got on the ice. So being a quick pull, it's not the best. The angle just doesn't work that great. The Vaughn, which comes out like here, when you pull, it just works perfectly. You can still do this. It's just, I think the implementation could definitely be better, and Vaughn showed kind of how that could be better. But overall, it's a fine strap and people are going to be able to use it whatever way they want. Onto the inner straps, you have this piece right here that goes over the backhand, and then this piece, which is over the fingers connecting here. This feels like it's kind of a fix for what I found issues with that Warrior glove, where I have to put a strap on here because it feels like the glove slides out when you close your hands. This feels like it keeps your fingers tight onto back here, but it still stretches because this is kind of an elastic material, as you can see. So it's a really nice implementation of that. This strap itself is a very nice soft material through here. It could be this, which I think would be a little bit nicer, but this is probably cooler because it's a bit of a spandex material. You have your thumb loops, which are just a standard thumb loop through here, and pinky loops, which are through here, which you can see in the thumb right there, and you can see the pinky loops right there, so nothing crazy in there. And then continuing on for the strapping, you have one backhand piece right here as well to tighten for your fingers. Now, I mentioned I don't love this backhand design. I never really like this piece. I feel like it just gets kind of like you can't open it as much as I would like to air it out and everything. It's a nitpick. It's not a huge deal, but I would kind of like if this had like another connection point so it could kind of fold over like Warriors do, so it really opens up, but it doesn't. Core Tech, which are Coreshorts, and people have heard of these before. They were labeled under Under Armour before. Now Bauer sells hockey specific one, but Core themselves sell their own line of pants and supportive clothing and apparel. Basically, this stuff helps you with growing strains, growing pulls, and helps keep your hips tight and everything like that. And speaking of injuries, I kind of pulled a growing playing in the playoffs a few months ago and have had to keep using these Core Tech shorts to make sure my growing doesn't get worse. When I don't wear them, I can feel it and it hurts kind of to walk the next day. With these, keeps everything nice and tight and keeps everything from stretching out too far and getting injured. So these have been a huge savior for me. Check out the link in the description to their website and use my coupon code that's in there to get a discount, and I'll put it on the screen here. It helps support myself and the channel so I can make content and doing real reviews, but also you get a solid product that I use all the time. Inside here, it does have those little grip things. I'm trying to get a picture of it, but it's really hard, and it's like basically just right down there. Hopefully you can see like a little black line on there. I don't know if that's silicone, but they've been doing this since I think the mock glove, and it was on my Hyperlight 2 as well. And that is kind of a little grip piece, so it's like printed grip onto the actual Suregrip itself, and you can see the Suregrip on here where the texture is basically totally gone, so it just becomes kind of a gray Nash-ish like material. And as a comparison for a good Suregrip, this is my True glove, and you can see how you can actually see the texture through it a lot more. And True still does the best Suregrip material in the industry, and I don't know how long that's going to last for because I heard you can't get it anymore. So hopefully they have a ton of it, but it's still really good, and it's a lot better than what is on this one, where this one, honestly, like you can't even feel the grip texture anymore, and it kind of slides out. Now, I have kind of an issue with my Hyperlight 2 in terms of actual grip of the glove itself, and that's going to be no different on here. I can feel the little silicone or printed grip when you close it like this, and it's totally fine. And honestly, the glove works pretty well for a game. My problem with Bauer's kind of grip, and this happened on like the blocker as well, it is really soft to the touch, everything on here, and it feels really nice and soft. Now, when I use it for one game, if I have a back-to-back, it is so wet and slippery. It kind of becomes almost slimy like the Warriors do, and I find my hand just slipping in it a lot more, and it's a lot harder to grab onto. I also find I overheat in these gloves a lot more than other companies. So the materials they use in here are very soft to the touch, and they're really nice feeling, but I feel like they really can't kind of trap in heat. Blocker was like that specifically, so I wish they did something slightly different on here. I mentioned previously that Bauer used to have like an air mesh through here. It was like their Supreme armor on the Supreme gloves, where it was something like this, and you can kind of see it, but it wasn't foams all the way through, and the foams had holes through it, and it has this air mesh, And the idea of that is so air can flow in and out of it. So when you heat up, you can get cool air from the ice, and your hot air should be able to escape it. Gone on here, it's just a normal nylon, and there's no real breathability through it. There's air mesh back here, but it doesn't really transfer through the other side. So I really wish they did something like that where they had kind of a gapping of something here. Bauer is now doing 3D printing for some of their helmets. This would be a perfect application if you just put some like venting right here. That would be great. I would love to see it more on these because I find these gloves run hot, especially on the second games. You kind of get slippery within there with how hot they run and how much you sweat. Now, while we're in here, I'm going to show off this closure a bit. This is a thing I've noticed a lot recently with Bauer gloves, including my Hyperlight 2. You can really feel the edges of the break. So you can kind of see how it's like rounded out here. And when you close this, you can really feel the edges, specifically like the middle piece and what wraps around it. So right here, you can definitely feel it. So this whole part right here feels just like the middle, like you would expect. The thumb, you can't really feel that much because it feels like this middle piece kind of folds over. But then the finger piece, you can definitely feel exactly where that finger edge is. And when you close it, you can feel it kind of pushing right in. And honestly, you can even feel it right here too. So when I put this on and I close it like this, I can feel that kind of joint of this part right here pushing into basically right here. And when I put that in there and it's going to like right there, it honestly feels very similar to what I talked about. Vaughn gloves have that kind of unique feeling. This feels like that as well, where that kind of edge right along this break right there, you can feel it into your fingers. And it's not the nicest thing ever. I think it could be more padded to stop that, but it's something that I don't notice at all in my True gloves. I haven't worn the 580 in a while, so I can't do a direct comparison, but I've noticed it a lot in the Vaughn gloves. I don't notice it in my 600 or 590 True glove at all. And you can also feel this one right here. So when you kind of squeeze that, you can see where that fold is, and you can feel that basically right here, and it kind of goes right into your fingers right here when you close it. And it's not the best thing. I really think this could be kind of beefed up and padded a bit more to not feel that. The thing I noticed, and the reason I'm bringing this up a lot, is the one thing with Bauer gloves, you can see how you can kind of double break these a bit. So there's that middle piece, and then you can kind of fold it on the other side. I've saw a lot of used ones of these gloves kind of broken in that way and that way, and it's kind of like a double break where it's not the most smooth thing. And you can kind of see this here where this piece is bunching up. A lot of these gloves are kind of really used online, and you can really see this part kind of getting in the way of closure. My closure is still really good, but if you do start breaking that in on that weird spot, it does cause issues with closure. And I think the design of it is not really the best for overall durability of these gloves. And you can definitely just feel it in shots too. And you can just feel it because it's not the most padded thing in the world. Closing that back up just to show it. Strap goes there, this piece goes over here and goes through this. And I do love how this is kind of strapped. I do love how this has a little tab piece on it. Just a nice attention to detail to pull this off so you're not getting just Velcro down here. And it is that little tab. Same with the other side, it is tabbed off, which I'm a huge fan of. I love these little Velcro tabs on there. The thing is, I do wish they switched this. So this was the soft Velcro and this was a sticky one. So that way when you're like this, the sticky one isn't kind of exposed there. Small nitpick, but they did it on the blocker, so I'd like to see it on the catching glove as well. So I mentioned how you can feel that break in your palm, and that is kind of leading me to catching with this in terms of protection. I took a few hard shots kind of down here, and it was not comfortable at all. And those were me just kind of blocking it, going to the side like this and blocking that. I noticed Bauer has kind of gone to a point where they are certainly feeling like they're sacrificing a bit of protection to be really comfortable and to close really well. This is my Pro Palm Hyperlight 2, and I feel more shots on this than any other Pro Palm glove I've used. This has been the worst for protection of a Pro Palm I've used, and you definitely feel all down here and in the fingers a lot. The DCT that's in this definitely feels like it's worse in terms of actual puck protection wise and everything. And I really feel like True's piece right here, where they just use a foam in here, works a lot better than what Bauer is doing in these. And their DCT just doesn't really feel like it does all that much. And Bauer has been moving away from licensed technologies like that, and that's just another example of it. So I was disappointed with that. Yes, if you catch the glove in the pocket, you're going to be fine. But I noticed that I did get it in the fingers, and it wasn't the nicest thing. It wasn't the hardest shot either. This wasn't like really high-end games or anything. It just wasn't pleasant. I didn't have time to do this on a puck machine test because I have to give it back to them because it's a demo set. So unfortunately, I couldn't put it through that test. And it's kind of along the lines of Hyperlight 2, where the Pro Palm isn't that good, especially compared to like True and Warrior gloves I've been using, when Warrior gloves aren't even Pro Palm. So that's kind of saying a lot for Warrior gloves there. Now for catching for this glove, this is just the 580 90 degree break. If you like catching with this glove, it's going to be pretty much the same. You know, this is basically a clone of what True has made, and you're kind of getting the same idea with that. And it's the same thing here. You don't have a super angled thumb. You have a pretty flat finger base too, but if this pocket and this whole catching thing works for you, it's going to work for you and you're going to enjoy it. I don't love this break angle. I think the 590s and 60 degrees are kind of the evolution of this and they work pretty well. So for me, this isn't my favorite thing at all. And I like that Warrior 7.1 a lot more than this one, but it is what it is. So if you love this shape, it's definitely there and it kind of works for it. Now you can see when you stretch this out, the T does kind of come in on itself, which isn't the best. You would prefer it to be kind of like that as well, but it's not the worst thing ever, but you again would prefer it just to kind of be facing a little bit more on the inner edge without being kind of tipping and going on the outside. But that is stretching it a lot. Kind of stock, it's pretty good for that, so not a huge issue. So the cuff itself, you can see how kind of solid this piece is right here and over here, which is a lot more solid than say that PGS glove we saw, and on the thumb as well, where it doesn't really flex all that much out, where that one really moved a lot. Bauer's pretty good in terms of performance and everything, as we know, and kind of same thing with here, where these kind of pieces on here is really solid. Now you can see the difference in this cuff is kind of interesting, because this one definitely does feel like it's more rounded back here than what this one is, and when we look up here, it looks like it just comes out a little bit more than what this one is, but it does also have that same shape right here kind of thing too, where it kind of cuts in a little bit too. Overall, for this glove, it doesn't wow me. It doesn't make me think that this needs to be the glove everyone needs to get. Now, obviously, I am not a 580 lover. I don't think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, which a lot of people online and social media people really do. With that said, I have a hard time seeing why you would want to go with this glove over the True one. And my experience with True gloves have been a lot more positive recently than for Bauer in terms of protection. My 590 True doesn't really feel like these pieces kind of fold out from each other. You can see how I can kind of flatten that out and it kind of starts jutting out. My 590 from True doesn't do that, and this part feels like it's really getting kind of pushed out and flatter as well. Durability kind of from that as well. I feel like True is just on another level, and this glove is, let's be real, basically a clone of what the True 580 Lefebvre made gloves are. So I have a hard time telling people, yes, you need to buy this Vapor 90. Even if you're buying a full set, I would still say, why wouldn't you just get the True one? They originally designed it, they made it, they're made in Canada if you do custom, and like you're getting a really quality piece of gear. I'm not saying this is bad, because there's pros using this glove for sure, and it's pretty decent overall, but why not get the original when you have, I'm going to be honest right here, without pour on and things like that, where they're moving away from that, I think you're getting better materials in the True as well, which people are probably going to say I'm crazy, but you can definitely see that in terms of the Suregrip material. True is way better than what Bauer is doing right now. So I have a hard time recommending this glove to people. I really do think there's better alternatives out there. I like that Vaughn glove a lot better. I think that is a pretty solid option as well, and I just don't really see this one kind of ticking any boxes unless you have to go to the digiprint route with this and want to do something crazy custom like that. That I get it. If you want this kind of graphic type thing and you want a 580, that makes sense. But for me, I definitely think there are better 580s out there. There's just better gloves out there. In the sense of you want a 580 and it's on a shelf and a company like Just Hockey is stocking them, just stock off the shelf. Again, if you don't want to wait for the custom wait times, I get that as well. So it's not bad. It's totally fine. It's probably going to work for a lot of people. I just think there's better things out there and you could probably do better, but if you need it on a pinch and it just works for your set, I guess go for it. So thank you very much for watching this video. Hopefully it was helpful. If this video was helpful in making a purchase, please let the company like Bauer know on social media. Let them know Hockey Reviews video helps you make a purchase with their gear. Greatly appreciated, so they know this is helpful. So thank you very much for watching this video. Remember to subscribe to me on YouTube, follow me on Instagram and TikTok. Links are in the description. And this review and testing only happened because of Just Hockey, so make sure you check out that link in the description to Just Hockey. Help support the channel. It tells them that these videos are useful and they should keep doing these with me. That way people keep buying gear through them, they keep getting something, and I can make more content, which is all I am asking for. Otherwise, if you want to support the channel without buying anything hockey related, check out the links in the description to buy me a coffee and Patreon. Everything through any of those links always comes back into the channel so I can keep making more content and doing more videos. Thank you very much for watching, and take it easy.
You're watching HockeyReviews.ca.